Nassir Little is the X factor for the Portland Trail Blazers this season. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another player preview. In the next few hours, I'm dropping a bunch of videos as I plan on finishing this series before the preseason game later tonight, as well as dropping a preseason preview. I am grinding out the rest of these videos, so stay tuned for a bunch of uploads. Check out the preview playlist link down in the description box below. And also, I recently dropped an interview with Travis Demers over on our second channel, Blazers Uprise Live, on a podcast that I am doing with Stephen Vaughn, so go subscribe to that channel as well. Link is also down in the description. Bunch of cool stuff in the description. Now, let's talk about Nas. Nassir Little is entering his 4th year with the Portland Trail Blazers this season. He got drafted with the 25th pick back in 2019, which was actually the first live stream that we ever did on this channel. In his 3 Portland seasons, he's played between 40 and 50 games and has had some great months and has had some months where he struggles. But last season, in 42 games, 23 of which he started, he averaged almost 10 points per game, 6 rebounds and an assist, while shooting 46% for the field, including 58% from 2 and 33% from 3. Last season was a bit of a mixed bag for Nassir Little. He finished really well from 2, and we all know he's a great athlete who can attack the rim and finish strong, while providing just enough three-point ability, but not enough consistency in that regard. Meanwhile, he was really good on the ball, showcasing the ability to potentially be a lockdown on-ball defender, but then he had his struggles off the ball, but that could be chalked up due to the rest of the guys around him who also struggled off the ball defensively last year. He also suffered a shoulder injury in late January, which caused him to miss the rest of the season, and injuries have kind of bothered Nassir Little throughout his career, as he struggled to consistently stay on the floor, and he's also struggled with his shooting consistency as well, which can be chalked up by his shooting splits by month, as in October he was 8 for 16 last year, 50%, in November he was 12 for 47 at only 26%, in December he was 6 for 29 at only 21%, but then in the month of January, he was 25 for 62 at 40%. If you go back and look at Nas's shooting splits from the season before, it's much the same. As in the 2020 to 2021 season, Nas shot 46% from 3 in his first 20 games, and in his final 28 games, shot 26% from 3. Nas's shooting splits vary more wildly than your typical NBA player, and the flashes are very encouraging, but Nassir Little has to find consistency this season for the Portland Trail Blazers, and that is the theme for him. He has all the ability in the world, both as an athlete and as a basketball player. It's just finding that consistent level of production that can be relied upon night in, night out. And now let's take a look at Nas's offensive game and how it fits into the team next season. Now, first we have to address whether or not he's going to start. I like Nassir Little as the 5th starter, as the starting small forward, as a guy who can be the #1 lockdown on-ball defender, which we'll talk about in a second, but then also he can cut and do enough off the dribble that you have to respect it. I'm really curious to see where his growth is in that regard, because he'll have some moments that impress you, but he just doesn't really do a whole lot off the dribble. He's more of a straight line drive, take it strong to the rim type of guy, but as the 5th starter in an offense loaded with playmaking and scoring ability, that could be good enough to really make him a useful threat at the forward position, and he's probably a better slasher than some forwards of the past, such as Al-Farouq Aminu or Mo Harkless. But in order to be the starting small forward, I think Nassir Little needs to be a little bit more consistent of a shooter. He needs to be a guy that can consistently space the floor and make things easier on Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, and Jeremy Grant, and then allow space to breathe with pick and rolls involving Jusuf Nurkic. Now, Nas can make up for some shooting struggles by being a guy that cuts, but Jeremy Grant is also a guy who likes to cut as well. It's good having some guys on this Portland Trail Blazers team that like to cut, but it's definitely easier if Nas can just space and knock down threes consistently. He'll definitely get some open looks, he just has to cash them in. On a team filled with playmaking, I think shooting is the #1 key for Nassir Little this season. And I think that's the case even if he's playing with the bench lineup, where he'll probably be sharing time with Gary Payton II and Justice Winslow, potentially Drew Eubanks as well. All of them are questionable shooters at best. And if there is one thing that goes wrong offensively for the Blazers this season, it could be a potential lack of shooting. If Nassir Little can be consistently relied on to knock down jump shots, that'll go a long way to making that not be an issue. As I said earlier, I have no idea what to make with his playmaking ability. He's not somebody that's going to consistently make plays for others, but I'm hopeful that the ball movement is better this year for the Portland Trail Blazers and that Nas can at least fit into that and make the right play somewhat consistently. His offensive rebounding is certainly nice. He's a good rebounder for a forward. Averaged almost 8 rebounds per 36 minutes last year. If he's the starting small forward, he's going to need to rebound like a starting forward because Jeremy Grant is not a good rebounder for a power forward. Nassir Little could help make up for that by starting at the small forward spot. He's competing with Josh Hart for that role, who's also a really good rebounder, but Nassir Little's even better, so that could give him the edge. On the offensive glass, it's nice to have a small forward that can crash the boards and get some extra buckets. And on the offensive end, I think the Blazers just need to get Nas moving. He's shown that when he has a lane, he can be an absolute beast taking the ball to the rim, but in a stagnant, isolation-heavy offense of past years and even last season, while he can have a flash of brilliance here or there that suggests that he could be a guy that could be an ISO scorer and somebody that can take guys off the dribble and maybe run pick and rolls in the long term, I still think he's at his best being used as a cutter, having his driving lanes created for him rather than him having to create them himself, and then he can therefore utilize them with his athleticism and his ability to take the ball strong to the rim. So I'd like to see him working off some curls, especially going to the mid-range where he's shown that he's comfortable shooting that mid-range shot. He hasn't shot a big enough sample of those shots to know if that's a quality shot or not, so I would like to explore that part of his game a little bit. Hopefully he can knock down that mid-range shot if defenders go under screens, but then if they trail him, he should have a lane to the rim where he can utilize his athleticism. You can also do a similar action out towards the three-point line. The Blazers will probably do it a bunch with Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons, but if you have 4 guys in the starting lineup that are all interchangeable in a way that can all initiate a bit, handle the ball a bit, and then can curl off these screens and really do damage, then all of a sudden it's a situation where you don't even have to pigeonhole guys into certain roles and certain sets, and you can run them differently and try and get different guys going, and defensive players aren't necessarily seeing the same thing as they did on the same set earlier in the game. So having interchangeable offensive pieces would be valuable. Hopefully Nassir Little is able to come off curls, move off the ball, catch and shoot off screens would be huge. But for a dude who's been here 3 years going into his 4th season, I just don't know what to really expect from him on the offensive end next season. It's going to be fascinating to watch. If he actually pops and can handle the ball a little bit more and create off the dribble and shoot threes consistently, then he raises the ceiling of this Blazers team to, in my opinion, a surefire playoff team. The ideal version of Nassir Little is the type of small forward that the Blazers have needed for a while now. Athleticism, creation, and defense. It'll be interesting to see if he gets there. On the defensive end, he had some really good moments on the ball last season, guarding Kyrie Irving at times, locking him up, DeMar DeRozan. He's a guy that can defend 4 positions. He looked even stronger at Media Day this year, so I truly expect him to be able to guard pretty much every power forward in the league. I think he can definitely play some small ball 4, especially with bench lineups. And him continuing his development as an on-ball defender is what the Blazers need. The Blazers didn't really have a primary point of attack defensive player last year. It certainly wasn't Robert Covington, and Norman Powell didn't have a consistent enough level of effort or the motor to be that guy either. Nassir Little has the potential to be that guy. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be Nassir Little because there's other guys on this Blazers roster that could take over that charge, but I don't think it would be anybody else in the starting lineup. Jeremy Grant can be okay on the ball, but I think he's a little bit better as a team defender and a help side guy. Nurk Day Morant certainly aren't going to be that primary point of attack defender, so Nassir Little has a real opportunity to potentially be the lockdown guy that earns a starting role with his defense. He has that 7-foot wingspan and the athleticism and the strength and the foot speed in order to stay in front of pretty much anybody in the NBA. He's had some real good moments where he's stayed disciplined and hasn't bought at fakes that suggests that he might have the IQ to be that lockdown defender long term. This honestly might be as important as him being a consistent 3-point shooter, because if he can be a consistent 3-and-D guy on top of the athleticism and the off the dribble potential, that's a very exciting prospect prospect that has a lot of Blazer fans intrigued. But he will need to clean up the off-the-ball defense. Hopefully the Blazers having more guys on the team this year that are on the same page and communicating on the defensive end will make guys like Nassir Little be more locked in, and hopefully he won't get lost as much off the ball this year as he did last year. There was a stretch where I really started paying attention to Nas's off-ball defense, and it truly wasn't good. We had a couple Brandt's breakdowns on our post-game shows where we looked at pictures from certain plays with Nas being extremely out of position. So that is something that he'll need to clean up this year. Now let's look at some statistical goals for Nas. The first two are efficiency goals. That is for him to shoot 58% from 2 and 35% from 3. Last year he shot 58% from 2 and 33% from 3. He shot 35% from 3 2 seasons ago, so he has done this before. But as much as it would be nice to see him shoot 35%, I also want to see him be consistent. I don't want to see him have months where he's down around 20 to 25% from 3 like he's had in the past. The next 4 goals are per 36-minute based. I want to see him average 14 points per game. Last season he was at 13.6, so this would be a slight uptick. I want to see him get 8 rebounds per 36, especially if he's the starting 3. 7.8 last year. He's going to need a rebound to help compensate for Jeremy Grant's lack of rebounding. 2 assists per game would be nice. Set a career high 1.8 per 36 last year, and then 1.3 steals would be cool. His career high is 0.8 steals per 36 minutes, which is a little bit low, a little bit surprising. I think the Blazers are going to continue to be aggressive this season. With his speed and his long wingspan, I think Nassir Little could be more of a steal guy, so it would be nice to see some improvement from there. And then he's not going to be much of a playmaker for others, but I would like to see him have a 1.8 to 1 assist to turnover ratio. At the end of the season, we'll look at these goals and see what he achieved. Anyway, that wraps up Nassir Little's player preview. Let me know what you think of Nas going into next season down in that comment section below. Do you think he should start at the starting small forward spot? Do you have confidence that he will finally find that consistent level of production, especially from the three-point line? Let me know down in that comment section. Check out the playlist and the second channel in the description. I'll catch you in the next preview, which is coming very, very soon. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.